Hey guys, I'm MG, and today I'll be looking at Home Alone 2 Lost in New York, which is a 1992 American Christmas comedy film that was directed by returning director Chris Columbus and written by returning writer John Hughes. However, why don't we stop running around and start reviewing right now? This film received pretty mixed reviews when it initially came out, with it even having a really low Rotten Tomato score. But as the years have passed, people reacted to this film much more positively, even saying that this was better than the first. And in my opinion, I agree because, yes, this is definitely better than the first in almost every way. And that is because it fixes almost all of the first film's problems and making some of the first film's amazing elements stronger, while also not being a complete rehash. I know people criticize this film for its similarities to the first movie, but just like Jaws 2, I honestly don't think it's that rehashy. Some elements are similar, yeah, like the plot points are basically the same, but it also brings some new stuff with this franchise that I really enjoyed. And it's not like Jaws 2, where it has new elements that are not really interesting. No, the new elements are actually great this time. The New York setting is really cool, and I love how much of New York it shows across the whole film, like the toy store, the hotel, and others, with some really beautiful cinematography and astounding production design in each of these locations. That is even more elaborate and more fleshed out compared to the first movie, with where it was mainly the house. But the sequel really expands the universe, which is exactly what a sequel should do, especially when it's set in a huge city like New York. So, great stuff. The old characters are just as charming as before, with really good performances as well. Kevin is still a really likable and intriguing protagonist, with Macauley Culkin doing an excellent job in his performance. But you want to know what's strange? Kevin's character development is even better than the first film. I don't know how, but they just show him missing his family and his guilt much more often. And his reunion with his mother is also better, since he actually apologizes to her. It was a little weird when he didn't apologize in the first film, but in this one, he does. And the conflict was different, which I appreciate, but it's definitely less interesting than before, with words about trust, and not about how you can be annoyed with a lot of people in the house. But the way they handle Kevin's character arc is much more emotional and way more effective. Harry and Marv are just about as enjoyable as ever, with Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern still having that amazing chemistry with each other, just like they did in the first film, delivering tons of funny moments that are really comedic. I do kind of wish that they were in the film more, like the first film, but it was less of a problem this time around, since Mr. Hector was the main focus for a good portion of the movie. And speaking of Mr. Hector, he was a really delightful new villain, and I actually found him to be pretty sinister and funny at times, with Tim Curry being a perfect choice to play this character, who manages to be friendly and funny without being too over the top. And lastly, the pigeon lady was solid, who has a pretty sweet relationship with Kevin, and a natural performance from Brenda. Her relationship with Kevin is weaker compared to him and Marley, but it was still really nice to watch. The music by John Williams has a lot more energy put into it, that is extremely catchy, and is absolutely wonderful to hear. This film also still retains the same light-hearted tone, while also being a little darker as well. And you know what? I like the darker tone. Okay, the skeleton was too much, but otherwise, it still suits the story and narrative immensely well. The funny moments are still as funny as ever, with very good comedic timing that manages to be on par with the first film. The emotional moments are much more effective, and it's not only the reunion, but also when Kevin decides to help the children in charity. The traps are slightly worse, but are still very fun and creative as they are, which still offers a lot of hilarious moments, from either the actors or the way the traps are executed. And even Buzz was much more sympathetic, and I actually really like Devin Rattray's portrayal of his character. So in general, this film just tries a lot more, but I would consider this film a really great time. In terms of its problems, the pacing was a bit messy, with the first act being rushed and the climax being a bit drawn out. I don't mind that this is 2 hours, but some parts are definitely not at the right speed. The family have much less to do, that I do kind of like, since I don't really care about any of them in both films, but they still could have shown up a little more to boost the drama. However, they still deliver some of the funniest moments of the whole movie, with that including Frank's shower song, the ending, or the way the mother yells Kevin. Like, that is just comedy gold. Also, the Donald Trump cameo was pretty neutral. I don't mind his inclusion since the filmmakers needed to shoot at his hotel, but I don't really care about his cameo here. So overall, despite his problems and weaker elements, I still found it to be a wonderful viewing experience, and a really worthwhile sequel to the original that I think was too much criticized back when it came out. So go ahead and watch it for Christmas. You will not be disappointed whatsoever. 8.9 out of 10. Goodbye everyone, and thank you for watching. Bye.